The Honourable Brian Walker.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I'm taking on board, of course, the evident care of the government in ensuring that the best needs of the community are indeed met. And so the questions I have is basically to help my understanding. Now, we're looking here at the definition of emergency in the definitions of the Emergency Act 2005. And I see that emergency means the occurrence or imminent occurrence of a hazard which is of such a nature or magnitude that it requires a significant and coordinated response. I think it is true to say that the definition of an emergency using these criteria would very much be in the eye of the beholder. For example, if it was a matter of a fire, those of us who have never experienced a fire would think it's an emergency. Those who are experienced firefighters would think, it's a minor thing, we can fix this quite quickly. So the degree to which the state of an emergency exists would depend to a large extent upon the comfort of the person making that declaration, whether it can be managed easily or it's going to be a problem. Am I correct in that thinking?
Minister.
Well, I'm not quite sure you are, Honourable Member, but if we are to use your language under the Act, I am the beholder. I am the Minister for Emergency Services, and so the buck stops with me in terms of the state of emergency. So you might have a different view, but I certainly, notwithstanding the fact that the Honourable Martin Aldridge just pointed out that I don't need to take into consideration Section 56 of the Act when I make my decision around Section 58 or under Section 58. However, I do take into consideration, and I'm confident and comfortable that Section 50, that my decision lines up with Section 56.
Yep. The Honourable Brian Walker.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Thank you for that reassurance. I'm comforted by that. It does point out, however, that there could be differing opinions of that. And the second aspect of this is the question of if a state of emergency has been declared, at what point do we move from the management, so from the declaration of an emergency, recognising the problem, to actually having control of the tools we need to manage the emergency? Because declaring an emergency again and again and again would actually imply that we've actually not got the controls we need. So we need to be modifying them again and again and again, rather than actually using the tools we have at our disposal, having an emergency being declared and then letting this run because the people who should manage it are indeed managing it.
Minister.
Thanks, Deputy Chair. So, Honourable Member, we have continued to learn as we've progressed through this pandemic. So, and it's on the record now, there's been 573 declarations made, directions made, and we're now down to 10 directions at the moment that we're essentially living under. We continue to move and evolve. At what stage, I can't say at what stage, but what I continue to rely on is the advice I get from the State Emergency Coordinator on a fortnightly basis. If the person in that position tells me, based on their advice and their knowledge, that an extension is required, then I'm at liberty to consider that. And if I'm confident that in the information that they've told me, and I have been thus far, then I extend. As to when it might stop, well, certainly if the State Emergency Coordinator tells me an extension is no longer required, then that's plain and simple for me.
The Honourable Brian Walker.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Again, very comforted. I have actually read through the Emergency Management Act 2005, albeit with the eye of a layperson, in the Response and Economic Recovery Omnibus and the Public Health Act 2016. Awesome powers in there. What I have failed to find is any justification for 72A in the Emergency Act. I've failed to see how that would enhance the powers, the awesome powers that you already wield.
Minister.
So what Section 72A does is it allows us to apply it to a class of people. So whether that's things like borders or contact tracing, that's not enabled under the Public Health Act. I will say, and I kind of said it yesterday, I'm not an expert on the Public Health Act. It's not my act, and it's not for me to suggest the merits or otherwise of that act or the changes that might be needed. What is before us is my act, and a decision has been made by Cabinet that an extension of the provisions that we've passed previously are required under this Act.